Take three. Hey, what's up, G?
Zach G mixed it.
Hey, it's the Art of Revolution.
Push the masses away from the media. Every day it's a new distraction from what matters to me. And you get the public together to speak in front of the theater with a microphone dangling. Congress tied up and they hearing us like, hey y'all, I'm holding this microphone like a K-Dog. And with this A-y'all, I kick the revolution way off. Today's the day, dog. They ain't like us, I'm quoting K-Dog. I'm from the days of face-to-face conversations like, hey, wait up. The fake is blatant, we ain't the racist. The claim is baseless, they taking face pics. The trade for information, take away your simple basics. The day-to-day Satan worship is taking place. It's your chance to speak your mind and probably your last time. Time is running out, we hustle every day for peace of mind. Chief and grind, that's what I'm saying when I'm out here getting mine. Get in line, the time to make a difference is not. Push, pull, push, pull. Push out the evil and pull in the truth. I know you got something to say and now's your time to say it, dude. Like push, pull, push, pull. Push out the evil and pull in the truth. I know you got something to say and now's your time to say it, dude. Like.
Welcome to Art of Revolution, another episode. We have a special guest here. I told everybody I was going to kind of go crazy with this and be the most eclectic podcast I can possibly be. So we have somebody with all kinds of great information here. We have Vito. Go ahead and introduce yourself, where you're from, and what you do.
Hi, my name is Vito. Originally from Italy, but I was born and I grew up in Germany. Moved to Mexico about a year and a half ago for tax reasons. What I do is, I'm a writer, right? I'm a writer. I teach people philosophy, spirituality, economics, a little bit of psychoanalysis as well. And that's sort of like what I do. I've consulted big businesses as well, help them grow in their revenue. Before that, in Germany, I used to be a street preacher, and I had my own religious group, which later on sadly dissolved, but
Yeah,
it is what it is.
yes, sir.
What
got you on the journey you are on now? Like, start where it took you to. We have a book we're going to introduce here shortly, and what what brought you to where you're at now?
Okay, so it's sort of like a long story, right? But what happened was, I'm gonna keep it short. What happened was this: back in 2018, I, got out of a relationship, and I had no idea what to do, and I had no idea how to sort of like talk to women because I was in such a long relationship that I pretty much forgot, and I found the subreddit The Red Pill, which sort of like was mainly focused on dating. Yeah, The Red Pill. Yeah.
How you REDPO?
Yeah, Red Pill, like the Matrix, The Red Pill.
Okay.
And what happened was on The Red Pill, the top Reddit of The Red Pill, GLO, I found his articles, and one of the articles that inspired me was "Break Up with Your Country," which is actually in this book here. It's in there. And what happened was I got inspired by that article, which made a good economic reason on why the West is declining. And the best option is to sort of like leave your country and start a new life in a different country. Right?
Yeah.
That's sort of like how it started, right? So then I got more into, I saw the philosophical aspects and economic aspects of this, and I started getting more into those topics before I made my final move. In the process of getting into philosophy, into religion, into spirituality, I decided to open up my own religious group and sort of like spread spread that around Germany as much as possible. Um, and what happened afterwards, the pandemic happened, right? The pandemic happened, there were lockdowns. Um, and I got into like many fights, not just against the church, but also against a couple family members too and friends. Which after the pandemic, I realized that life isn't getting any better
Yeah.
in Europe, and I had to leave, right? So I talked to the author of this book, right?
Mhm.
To GLO, who basically taught me even more of the stuff that I know now,
Yeah.
and told me like I should get a remote job, move out,
Yeah.
right? So I got into consulting and coaching, mainly sort of like to get me started, right? Started teaching people what I knew, mainly philosophy, mainly spirituality, but also psychoanalysis. And that allowed me to move to Mexico about a year and a half ago. And now I live here. I
And
I
here you
write.
are.
Yeah, here we are. I write
There you
regularly.
go.
I
So,
teach really.
go ahead. Sorry, keep going.
And yeah, so that's basically how I can support my lifestyle here, which is, I live a simple life. I
Yeah.
mainly study. I study and I teach and I read. That's
Very good.
we do a lot.
What
Yeah.
so the religious group, summarize that for me. Give me a quick summary of the beliefs, the ideology, and why you
So
thought it was important.
so I used to be Christian,
Yeah.
and I used to be Catholic because I'm Italian.
Yeah.
So um, I grew up Catholic, and I used to be Catholic before I got more into spirituality, and I realized that a lot of the doctrine of the church, of the Catholic Church, is wrong, and that actually a lot of Freemasons are in the Catholic Church as well, right?
Well, we'll have that argument later, but go
We'll
ahead.
have that argument later, but
Yeah.
but my main point was that the doctrine was wrong, and I can't follow a belief system that follows a wrong doctrine.
Yeah.
And so I started to first have I started as like a non-denomination Christian, before I realized that when I moved here to Mexico and I got more into uh, occult books, and including including things like Hermeticism
Yeah.
and Jewish Kabbalah, I realized that maybe Christianity isn't for me.
Absolutely.
and I should and I changed my belief systems now, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
So
Nothing wrong with that.
yeah,
You have
that's-
so we can address the Freemason thing real quick, or we can move on to why you think the West is in decline and what caused it.
I mean, please, like whatever you want to talk about first, right?
From my understanding, I mean, the Masonic Order is an excommunicated body completely and totally. And they're, from everything that I've learned, and I know for my own reasons that they have their own Masonic, or I guess you would call it's called Opus Dei, right? And so the Freemasons, from where my perspective is branched off from an excommunicated body. And you can't be. I know in Italy it's different. Italy's a little different because I know they've had, there was a whole banking conglomerate and all kinds of stuff that happened. But outside of Italy, Freemasonry, like I have, there's people I know that are Catholics that won't even talk to a Freemason or a Mason.
Right. So what I study is that a lot of high level Freemasons go through becoming a Catholic priest first in order to learn that doctrine, and learn that doctrine, learn Latin, learn Hebrew, right? and they do become ordained, and then later they basically it's like stealing someone's technologies and then switching sides, right? So they do become ordained, they do become Catholic priests, but not to practice Catholicism, but sort of like get that inner knowledge that is usually hidden from the public.
We're gonna
Right.
have a round 2 on this.
On this,
Yeah,
yes.
we're gonna have a round 2 on this. Let's just, because I got me and you. You know, I want this is mostly about you, less about me. But I heavily disagree, and that's
Okay.
and it's okay. And then,
That's
but that's
okay,
why
yeah.
we have round 2s, right?
That's why we have round 2s. Yeah.
The one thing that I 100% agree with you on is the decline of the West, right? And none of us can put our finger on the pulse, but we all have ideas and we all have our thoughts on it. And it's a, you know, if you want to go into biblical stuff, it's Sodom and Gomorrah reincarnation from my perspective, right? And then the globalist orders and stuff like that, you know, is it, you kind of on the same page there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. So the reason why I can make an economic argument why the West is declining, but we can also make a spiritual argument. And I think I'm going to start with an economic argument, right?
Yeah.
So currently, the current economic system of the West depends on inflation and depends on a debt system.
Yeah.
And so what happens is you basically elitists rank up as much debt as possible from the public to sort of like create more surplus for themselves.
Yeah.
But they never pay it off, right? It's sort of like gets bailed out.
Yeah.
But the problem is with bailing things out, the problem isn't gone. It just moves to someone else, right? And
Yeah.
so it goes down the ladder, you know, the social ladder. And who suffers the most is 90% of the population, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm 100% with you on this.
And so and so the problem with the West, or with the upper class of the West, the top 1%, is that they don't understand that there is a limit to the economy, right? Because we only have a limited amount of resources. There's only only a limited amount of resources. There's only a limited amount of production. There's only a limited amount of labor power, right? And so what they don't understand is that what they think is that they can endlessly exploit those resources that they have in front of them without any consequences, or that if the consequences do happen, they can just bail themselves out,
Yeah.
right? But obviously that's not logical, because there is a finite amount of time, finite amount of resources, and there's also finite amount of labor power, because you can only work for so long, right?
Yes.
And so the goal is at any cost to increase production, but none of that surplus gets spent on something, right? And so you have this hoarding of surplus, of capital, and they hoard it and hoard it and hoard it until it loses all value, and then at some point they have to like spend it at once, but by the time they spend it, it's already less. You already caused an inflation.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And that's what we're seeing right now.
Right. That's what we're seeing right now. I can't speak too much on America, only from a European perspective, you know.
Well, the IMF, from a Europe, I'm seeing it decline. We're seeing, I mean, the things that we watch and that we hear from people who we talk to on social media, even now, like what is a violation of the Electronics something Act in the UK. Yeah. Like you can't even speak anymore. It's almost like it's the empiric, you know, the empire, you know, striking back on us right now. And it's the thing that I'm concerned with. And I think a lot of people don't really know. You mentioned that the elites are hoarding it. Who's hoarding it? Because what are they going to really do with it? What's the point?
the people who are at the top 1% are hoarding it.
Yeah.
And the point isn't so much, it's not really a logical point, but
Yeah.
it's more of like a libidinal point. It gives some enjoyment to hoard, right?
You think it's
from
just arrogance?
It's just pure enjoyment. It's like almost, you can compare it to a sexual enjoyment almost,
Oh man.
you know?
Yeah.
So we're going to go into psychoanalysis here. There's a term called jouissance, which means you can think of it as like, a sexual release.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So, and the thing is that us humans, we're complex creatures because we're controlled by language and not by instincts. And so we can experience certain releases. I'm trying to control my language here. Through other things that are not biological, right?
Is it because they have all the biological releases when they're young?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're like a trillionaire or billionaire, you can pretty much on a biological level enjoy your life to the fullest, but there's always a limit to it.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. That's what I meant.
Because you only have so much biology to you. But sorry.
No Diddy, everybody. No Diddy.
But what happened? No Diddy. But what
I had
happens?
to throw that in there. But I'm sorry.
Yeah. But what happens is that there's a language thing, right?
Yeah.
So you can experience a certain type of release through language, through concepts.
Yes.
And in our current economic structure, you can experience enjoyment through a sort of like castration. So where you not a physical castration, but it's more like a conceptual castration where you cut yourself off for enjoyment, right?
Yeah.
But that gives you enjoyment. And so a lot of these elitists, they find enjoyment by cucking themselves out of enjoyment, and also cucking other people out of enjoyment.
Sounds like George Soros.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, that's definitely someone. That's definitely someone who is like that. You know, that's definitely someone who is like that. Now, does that mean that George Soros is? We're gonna call these people perverts because that's their official.
It's a perfect word for them. Yep.
Right, and that's also the official term. Psychoanalytic term for those people, right?
Yeah.
And so there's this perverse structure, but it doesn't mean that the people necessarily are perverts. It's just that they've marinated in that structure so much that they take those behavior patterns into their lives.
Anything can be perverted too. I mean, it's not always it's so sexualized. That's another thing about the West. It seems so sexualized, but you can pervert anything.
Yeah. Because as long as we speak language, right?
Yes. Yeah.
As long as we speak language, we will always put our libidinal economy into things.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Just because there's such a limit to our biology, that it's oftentimes not satisfying to just have reproductive intercourse.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
I have it seems like, now this may sound absolutely crazy and I don't know if I can explain it right, but it seems like it's like if you look at things in like a dimensional way, like the universal dimension, like the people on the bottom of the totem pole see the spiritual and financial world in one dimensional, right? And then the people who are middle class see it in 2-dimensional, and the people above them see it in 3, and then you got the 4D guys and then the 5D guys, and so once you've experienced all of those levels and you're on that 5D level, you have to find some sort of fulfillment. And it seems like a lot of times, especially in like the modern era, that 5D level is diabolical.
Yeah, usually, right? Yeah. That's true. So the way it works is people on the lower level, who are on a lower level. So there's a certain caste system, right? In every spiritual space, right? In any spiritual space, there's a caste system.
Yeah.
So there's people who are of a lower caste and people who are of the highest caste, right?
Yeah.
And then there's the in between.
Yep.
And so people in a lower caste system, who are lower caste, find pleasure through simple things like alcohol, right? Like alcohol, drugs, and so on and so forth. But as you go up into caste system, those material things do not give you any enjoyment anymore.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so you have to look for higher things, right?
Yep.
And a lot of these higher things, they exist in the macrocosm.
Yeah.
Right? So there's the macrocosm and then there's the microcosm.
Yeah.
And everything that happens in the macrocosm gets translated in the microcosm. And so what we can do is if through certain rituals, we can pull movements from the macrocosm into the microcosm, right? The reason why those rituals and those spiritual practices by the elitists, by the top 1% are diabolical. Well, there's two reasons, right? First one, it's their religion.
Yeah.
They believe in that. They, that's why I disagree with atheists so much, is that you cannot function on a higher level. You cannot function on a more efficient level without some sort of spirituality. There just needs to be some external force that you draw from to give you energy, right? And so a lot of atheists, they can't do it, right? They cut themselves off from it, which is why a lot of them don't have the energy to, fix their body, to work out, to sort of like
no higher power.
They have no higher power, right?
Yeah.
And so because they have no higher power, they don't have enough or as much willpower as somebody who does, right?
Yes.
Now, I'm not saying that every person who believes in something looks like immaculate, has like the greatest body, has like the greatest lives. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that those people still pull from an external power. Yeah. And it still helps them more than doing things by yourself, right? Yeah. So
it's like going to the gym. You got to always have a gym buddy, right?
You got to always have a gym
higher
buddy.
Power.
Otherwise, the gym is boring, dude. If you go by yourself, it's boring, and you're not going to have a good workout.
I got this stuff. This is, I don't mean to interrupt, but you're leading me down a trail here. And the one thing and we're talking about elitists and their diabolical behavior. Excuse my language there, but why isn't you get more endorphins and dopamine and serotonin from doing good things? But it seems a lot of them are doing extremely selfish, low down, dirty things like the World Economic Forum, the Klaus Schwabs, the Soroses, even Mark Cubans of the world,
Right. So the reason for that, it's very simple, actually. The reason for that is this. When you do good deeds, right, you're connecting yourself closer to the divine.
Yes, exactly.
But the divine is a lot to deal with.
Yeah.
It's a lot to deal with, and it's very giving. And so a lot of times when you become a very giving person, you're closer to the divine, but you're not really getting a lot of benefits.
Yeah, right? I know that firsthand. So, but
yeah, it's
yeah.
So there's as above, so below, right?
Yeah.
So the opposite of giving is being a very taking person. Now they're already very greedy. They're already very greedy. And so they're going to go into a belief system that allows them to be even more greedy, to take even more from people.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's doing the opposite of what would be considered as divine, right? And the reason they believe in these diabolical religions and their spirituality is very like dark is because it allows them to take more, and it plays into their libidinal economy, right? So it's an open question what came first, right? Did the spirituality came first and it turned them like this, or were they always like this and they just followed along the spirituality that will allow them to be like this, right?
Yeah.
I don't really have the answer to that, but what I do know is that both their psychic structure and their spirituality align and complement each other. And so maybe down the line they will not get any like benefits after they die, but the point is exactly not to die, right? The point is to become
immortal.
Immortal, right?
Yes. Yeah.
In the material world.
Oh,
And so
man.
we can get into that, where that comes from.
Absolutely. I got a crazy question for you. And this is a quick, simple one, okay? Because I hear this on every show. All the people I talk to believe, including me, that we are in like an end time spiritual war. What do you don't have to get into it, but we can go, but we can rewind right after you answer this. How do you feel? You think that do you feel that way too? Or do you feel like we're just in the next step of evolution?
So
spiritual evolution, I mean.
Spiritual evolution.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to say is we're in the beginning of the end times.
Okay.
So we haven't reached the end times yet.
Yeah.
And because it's not, mistakenly, a lot of people believe we're in the age of Aquarius. We're not.
Yeah.
We're still in the age of Pisces, right?
That's because they cut out a month out of the year for hella years.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And according to the Jews, it's at the year 6,000, right? So right now we're at 5,850, something like that. So according to that, it's going to take like 150 years for us to reach the end time, to the age of Aquarius, which is considered the end times, right? Now, what is happening is that there is a specific group of people that start with Z. I don't want to name them, but they're trying.
Don't do me like that, bro. Name them.
Well, yeah, they're pretty popular. They're pretty popular right now. There's a whole.
You don't have to. We got.
There's a whole situation going on right now in the Middle East.
Yeah.
So I think you know what I'm going to refer to. Yeah. So these people, they trying to speed up the end times.
Yep.
They're trying to speed up the end times.
Jihad.
But the problem with manipulating time, especially with manipulating certain timings that are made by the divine, preordained, is that you'll never get it the way you want.
Yep.
And so maybe be
patient.
they get their promised land, but rebuilding the temple would take 150 years all of a sudden.
Well, that's where now I want to get back on track, but the knowledge from the temple and all that's where we're gonna have round two, because we got some Masonic stuff to talk about, because the new Babylon, the new temple, the new Jerusalem is in the Western Hemisphere.
Right. So that's, I would say, like that,
and it was at the antithesis of the teachings of the Catholic Church. It's the opposite,
right? Complete
opposite of the teachings of the Catholic. That's where we'll have that argument later. But you seem like you got your way more on top of this than I am. But I still want to have a little argument. Go ahead.
I wouldn't say that I'm the most knowledgeable, but I did some research.
I got to put you in touch with Angel. We call him gold pills around here, but you and this guy would be, man, I'm telling you, I'm going to set up a show between the two of you guys, all banner, everything. I'm just going to sit back. I know we got another guy watching who's really, really, really liking this already.
All right. Okay. Yeah. It sounds good. The more people I talk to, the better, right?
The better. Yeah. Anyways, let's get back on track here before we go too absolutely crazy. So you have a book. Yeah. It's called The Pillars of Wisdom.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the book and why it's important. What made you write it? Why is it important to you? Why is it important to the rest of the world? And why should people look at this book?
Okay. So the reason why this book is important is because it explains very well things that have been happening since, I'd argue, 2016, right?
Okay.
And the main argument of this book is that there are certain things that are your fault, but then there's other things that aren't your fault. That are just the fault of the current economic structure that you're in. And you'll find out what are your faults when you move to a economically better country, right?
Well, that depends on where you're at. You're right. You said you actually stole it from me, because when you move to an economically better country, but we're in the information age. If you have to, even in China, people, are making millions of dollars off of the internet, in the dark web-ish area. So doesn't it depend more on your willingness, your ambition, and your drive, and your internal power than it does where you're at or who you are?
So yes and no.
Okay.
But let me set up the context here. Like, this book mainly talks. So there's many authors in this book, right?
Okay,
and
okay.
the main author of this book grew up in California, right?
Okay.
And so that's sort of like from the viewpoint that he's talking about, right? Yeah.
I grew up in California too.
Yeah, it's if you want to talk to him, I can.
Yeah, hook it up. Tell him call me. We can. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do that. But so for him that's the main perspective here, right? Now there's obviously, like, he talked to a lot of people, right? And so there's obviously different perspectives as well that he got from these other people. Now, in terms of willpower and ambition, the problem with willpower and ambition is that when you have a lot of it, but there's certain systems and people that are in your vicinity around you, and they stop you from achieving your full potential, then you can have all the willpower that you want, but structurally speaking, you're getting cucked out of it.
You said cucked?
Yeah, you're getting cucked.
Oh man.
So and so a lot of times it is better to move somewhere else. Mexico is a good example because it's still very white. It's still very white.
White or wide?
White.
Like WHITE?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's still very white. But the lifestyle here is cheaper. And so if you have a remote job, so if you earn dollars in any sort of way, you can live a good middle-class life here without getting cucked by certain systems and people, including friends and family as well, right?
Oh yeah.
And personally for me, that spoke true because my family is from a lower class background, and a lot of times when you are a smart person in a lower class, now I don't want to like suck my own dick here, but when you're a smart person in lower class, like, all that potential goes to waste because people have a misunderstanding of the world.
Yes.
Right. And so what happens is all that willpower, all that potential just goes to waste, not because of yourself per se, but just because you were in the wrong environment, Yeah. Now, there are people who did manage to fulfill themselves despite their environment, but they fought really hard. They fought really, really hard. And 9 times out of 10, people don't make it, and you just increase your chances by moving somewhere where your lifestyle is more affordable, if you know what I'm saying, and where it's easier to play tax games, if you know what I'm saying.
No, I get what you're saying. I think that
Right.
if you're from America, you have a completely different perspective. Maybe we don't understand the rest of the world, but like, this is something that we're going to completely disagree on in a lot of ways. Even, and I know we're talking about the book, but I mean, the Jacobins were what, 3% of the French population? The Bolsheviks were less than that. The Maoists became big, but they were, and they were in totalitarian, regimes, monarchies, and the like. And, the Vladimir Lenin stole his position. One man stole it, and it was based on a drive that he had that nobody else had. Same with Mao, same with the Jacobins, same with the Juaristas in Mexico. You know how many Juaristas? There's 10,000, 50,000 Juaristas. They gave that whole country hell.
Right.
You see, so when we're taught about these things here, and I don't mean to take away from the book, we got to get back to the book, but when we're taught about these things here is you dream big, win big, gamble big, win big, play big, win big, no matter what. But if you sit on the sidelines, you're going to be a product of your environment because that's what you decided to be. So let's take this out of, enlighten me on a worldly perspective. Right. So when we're talking about this, let's talk a little more worldly here, because it really, like, I believe in the depth of my soul that your circumstances don't dictate your future.
Right. So I will argue economic essentialism here. What I'm going to say is that if you are in an economic bad situation, where you're being taxed for everything, it's hard for you to build a business, it's hard for you to start anything up, or to even keep most of the money off your job, then it is best to move somewhere where there's just a better tax structure, and economically speaking, you have more buying power because of that.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Right. So in Germany, the tax rates are 42%. Obviously, there's like health insurance and stuff like that, right? But 42% of your income goes to the government, right?
Okay.
And so what happens is you don't feel that 42%. So
because you never see it.
You don't feel it. Like, it just keeps getting worse. And you think to yourself, okay, I'm giving away 42% of my income, but the streets still smell. There's more homeless people. Immigrants start flooding my neighborhood, and I don't see an improvement in my life. My rent keeps getting higher, right? And you start asking yourself, like, is it really my own ambitions, or is it just that I have the ambitions, but I can't fulfill my ambitions just because the government is taking all of my income to do that, right? And so for you to fulfill your ambitions, you need a certain amount of money, and you need a certain amount of economic structure that allows you to fulfill your ambitions. And again, I'm not disagreeing with the fact that you can achieve that in the US. I don't know. I have only been to the US once.
Where'd you go in the U.S.?
Louisiana.
I grew up in North Highlands, California.
Okay.
The murder rate was higher than Compton in the 90s in my neighborhood. And we live, like, we changed our life. You can be a statistic, or you can't, but I've never experienced the rest of the world. So you're coming from me from a worldly perspective. And when you're talking about this stuff, I'm like, wishing or thinking, like, I can't personally imagine. So you got to, and a lot of my viewers are American, and a lot of us can't imagine the struggles you're talking about, because I mean, we can file exempt on our W-2s if we want and not pay a dime in taxes, or we can just not pay taxes, or we can, it'll catch up to us in the end, but we can get away with it. And your ambition takes you just as far, and I think that, I think a huge part of our problem in this day and age is that the message is that you are what you are because of your circumstances, you see. And so when you're painting a picture too, I mean, examples like you gave a really good example of Germany, you know, and then, you know, from our perspective, we see Germany as a Western country similar to us. Most Americans are stupid. Just so you know that, right? Most Americans are like, I'm one of them. I'm completely oblivious. You know, I got my brother's an MC and shit. I grew up with rappers who are millionaires and stuff, and we all grew up in the same neighborhood, you know, or, you know, people kill each other and fucking, you know, and then, you know, I lived part of my life in Carson City as a kid, and it was, you know, it was a over police tyrannical nightmare. So I can see kind of both perspectives, but, you know, Sacramento, California was a little wild in the 90s when I was growing up. And, you know, most of my peer group has absolutely succumbed to the circumstances that you're discussing right now,
Right.
in more ways than one, through the welfare state and all that. But we choose to design our own reality, right? And here, not where. So where I'm losing you, I'm not losing you. I'm with you. But what a lot of people who here are gonna see it is they don't understand that.
Right.
You know, we don't see it we don't see life that way. And wouldn't the world be a better place if you saw it through the eyes of a young hoodlum white boy from Sacramento, California, who fucking struggled and strived and climbed out of the gutter to become something a little bit bigger than he was yesterday?
Sure. There's certainly like an idealism there.
Yeah.
There's certainly an idealism there, right? And my argument is that an idealism can give you the motivation to do what you need to do, but in the end of the day, you have to also look at your circumstances, right? And a lot of times it is better to change your environment just because you have a higher success rate like that.
Yeah, right? I agree with you there too, because Patrick Bet David, you know who he is?
I've heard of him, but that's the guy who Valuetainment.
Yeah, he was a Persian refugee during the revolution, landed in Germany, came to America, and yeah. So on that note, you're not wrong. You know, you're not, you know, because he changed where he was from, you know.
Right. Right. So again, it's like we could make the argument, but then there's the simple example of like talking about Patrick Bet David, right? Yeah. He was a Persian refugee during the revolution. So let's say you talk to someone who is like, let's say you talk to an Afghani child, you know, you can't tell an Afghani child that, oh, all you need to do is just pull up your bootstraps and you'll be fine, right? A lot of times you have to tell that Afghani child, hey, listen, wherever you are right now, it's not working out for you. Yeah, it's not working out for you. Go somewhere else. Yeah. Go somewhere else and build a life there because you have better chances, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's sort of like the argument here. I mean, you know, I'm living with people who used to live in California as well.
Yeah.
One of my roommates, he grew up in Los Angeles. No, he grew up in San Diego.
Okay, well, that's way different than Los Angeles, brother. Right. I'll tell you.
He grew up in San Diego, and the author of this book grew up in Los Angeles. So,
what part of Los Angeles did he grow up in? Is he there?
He's busy.
Oh, no, it's okay. I'm just curious.
But I'm not sure.
I was born in Anaheim, which is south of It's Orange County, which is the neighboring county.
Orange County,
a couple miles away. Yeah.
I think. If he comes up here, I'll ask him, right? Yeah. But the other guy, he grew up in San Diego, and he moved here to Mexico as well because he was like, "Wow, I have a remote job. You know, I come here, I eat better food, I live a healthy lifestyle, I have more free time, and I can do whatever I want, right? Just because I have more buying power." Mm-hmm. And so the best thing that not just the European taxpayer, but also the white American taxpayer can do is to move to a country, to a different country, get foreign income inclusion, and keep most of their money, right?
Yeah.
And then get to spend it on more meaningful things, like more things that allow you to reproduce yourself, basically.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So
So-
plus the dating life here is really good as well. You know, it has
well,
its,
yeah.
it has
You're
its
in the
hiccups,
West.
you
You're in
know?
the West, buddy. That's how we do that. And best believe they have that. They have the Mexican dream too. You know what I
Right,
mean? The American dream isn't just the American dream. You can go to Mexico. I mean, look at George Jung. Anyways, it's
Right.
I see Europe as. I mean, what is there? How many countries are in the EU? What? 17, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
17. So we just look at it as like, you know, that's the other 17 states besides Israel being the 18th, you know.
Right.
And all the states are overtaxed too, you know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You know
it's
what I
it's
mean?
bad. It's bad over there. It's really bad over there. And you know, Germany is more of the center in Europe, right? So Germany is the EU, you know.
Oh yeah, it's the economically dominant, has been for a long time,
Right.
which is kind of a trip if you think about it.
Right. And again, they're not doing good. You know, they're not doing good. I know that if there are German, yeah.
Uh-oh.
So hold on. Can you give me a 10-minute break here?
I absolutely can. You okay? Are we good? Are we going?
Yeah, we're
down
good. We're good. I just I
We
have
can
someone,
edit too. Go ahead.
I have someone at my doorstep that I need to address. He just showed up. So give me like
don't
10
hurt him.
minutes. Yeah.
All right. I'll see you in 10.
I'm so sorry. I just had
That's all good, dude. Don't trip. I do that shit all the time. Sometimes I go.
had to deal with something.
We had someone creeping through our windows one night, and all of us we had like 2 or 3 people sitting here, a couple people on, and you know. So
Yeah, that's funny you say that, because something similar happened
yeah.
to me, so I had to check it out.
Yeah.
I didn't want
Okay.
any trouble. But it turns out it was just a neighbor who was
Where in Mexico? Well, I don't want to know where you guys are in Mexico.
I mean, I can tell you it's not a problem.
Yeah, is it like a safe area? You guys probably.
Yeah,
Mexico
it's a
City,
safe
I would
it's a
imagine.
safe area. Like I live in I live in the suburbs here, right?
Mexico City suburbs.
No, it's the Yucatan Peninsula.
Oh, you lucky man!
Yeah.
I might come down there.
You
I would
should.
love to live
You're
there. There's
welcome.
There's so
You're
much.
welcome to come. You're welcome
in-
to come. We have great food here every day, you know.
I'm one of those, like, in you know, in the Sierra Nevadas in California, there's so many lost treasure stories. Even on the beaches, because of the explorers from Europe who explored the beaches on the Pacific.
Right.
Lost treasure ships, but I read these books about the Yucatan, and oh my goodness, I would love to just go down there with the metal detector, kick it on the beach, and just, you know, go crazy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. No, it's what's funny. What's crazy about the peninsula is people still speak Mayan here. Actually,
I know Nawa.
Yeah, yeah. It's the first time I got here, you know, I was like, what kind of language is this? I thought people speak Spanish here, but no, they still speak Nawa, and that community is still alive, which is
Oh yeah. No,
crazy.
the Aztec, Mayan, you know, that the development of that civilization is it's one of the biggest Western fallacies that they disappeared. They did not disappear. They still speak Nawa in California.
right, and here as well.
Yeah. Well, the people who speak it in California are a little different than the people who speak it down there. I'll tell you, because most of them you'll see on Gangland.
Oh, okay. Well, not here.
Not definitely not there. No, it's beautiful. I've always wanted to go. You know, I've never really had any desire to leave. I'm not in California now, but
I mean, what I'll tell you is you can come visit, you know,
Yeah.
you can come visit. You see for yourself. You know,
Yeah.
it's really nice here. I'm not
Yeah.
telling you to move here, but you know, I'm just saying like
Come visit. Yeah.
come visit. You know, it'll be
Yeah,
great.
well, I got a feeling we'll have a round two for sure, especially when it comes to this Catholic Masonic thing and
Oh yeah, oh
some
yeah.
of the esoteric arts, which is kind of I didn't mean to go down a different rabbit hole in the book, but you know, we see things, I think, and I'll just kind of sum up the economic from a Californian's perspective, and then you can kind of give your input on it. But we see the world is what you make it. Even, you know, Patrick Bet-David is the best example of the American dream, living, breathing, and alive. And I think America's biggest problem is it's not our job to spread that dream everywhere, right? It's not our job. And I think that American politics are broken, but I firmly believe no matter where you're at or what you're doing or where you're listening from, if you want to find success in whatever you find success in, first step is find what you love. Second step is attack that with vigor and find a way to make it to come to fruition. And if you have to move, move. So I agree with you there. But dreaming, one of the biggest problems in the world, I think, is that dreaming was okay for such a long time to dream, and now people are less dreaming and more following, you know, and admiring or being envious of something instead of dreaming big enough to make it happen for yourself, no matter what you have to do. It doesn't matter what you have to do or where you're at. You can do it if you put your mind to it. And I think that's an important message for the world to hear, you know?
Right. So again, like dreaming implies that, and I agree with you. Like you gotta have some ambitions, and they have to be big. But then you also have to realize that that it takes a lot of willpower. It takes a lot of fighting to
Yes,
get
it
there.
does. Yes, it does.
know,
Yeah.
And you know, moving to a different country, it's not necessarily easy. I had to fight a lot of people
Oh yeah.
to be here. You know, I had to outperform my sales manager essentially to to be here.
Don't do that in America. We get fired.
Well, he was from America.
Oh,
He was Texan. He
Yeah.
he was Texan, and
They're the worst, too. Them Southern boys. You better watch out.
he was not happy about it, but
Yeah.
you know, but what can I do? Like if I outperformed him, you know, then
Take his job. That's what they're always worried about when you outperform your managers. They know you're coming for their job.
well, I did, you know.
Attaboy. Anyway, see, dream big, people. I think the key, though.
Dream big, and also
Yeah.
dream big, and also fight for it. You know, fight for everything.
If you love goat herding and that's your passion and you don't make any financial gains, you feed your family, you take care of your people, but your favorite thing to do is herd goats, chase it and herd them goats.
I'd say if you love goat herding so much, you'll find a financial way to support that dream, you know.
Absolutely.
There's always a way. There's always a way, you know.
Man, you're a good example of it too. Look.
I mean, you know, again, I don't want to suck my own dick, but
shit, if I could do that, I'd never leave the house. No. I'm just kidding. Anyway.
I mean, that's also a dream, right?
Yeah, fucking crazy. So we got, you know, let's switch modes here and get to some of the spiritual aspect of what you're doing. Where, you know, so I'm going to learn from you. So I know we talked about some alchemy stuff. We've talked about a lot of stuff. Where are we going to take this?
So, okay. The way we can start is I can give you some context. This is brief history lesson, right?
Yeah.
And we can talk about some of the rituals, you know, we can talk about there's also a big conspiracy theory.
Start there.
Okay. So
Philosopher's Stone shit right here. Here we go.
so a lot of these spiritual places are infested with theosophists, right? So what?
Okay.
So what are
Theosophists.
yeah, theosophists.
Okay.
So
Define that.
okay,
I know what it means, but some people aren't. So
right. So there is certain, like, New Age. I think that's the
Yeah.
best way to describe it,
yeah.
right? There is New Age, and in New Age you have the belief system that everybody has an equal spirit,
Yeah.
an equal spiritual power. So the point is to sort of like remove a caste system out of spirituality, or dilute it down, right? So there's this woman called Blavatsky,
Oh yeah, I know about her. Yeah.
and I've only done recent research on it. But what I do know is that she had like it wasn't a dream. It was like a weird mental message. That's what she called it, I think.
Yeah.
From these two guys who are like in the Himalayan or in India somewhere,
Yeah.
who were considering themselves as Buddha and I believe Jesus, right? Again, not sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. But and that's sort of like how she developed like her own belief system,
Yeah.
where it's just very
There was a movement around her. I'm looking it up right now.
I think it was the White Brotherhood.
Helena Blavatsky.
Yeah.
This
I
is
think-
Victorian-ish, kind of late Victorian. What the hell did they call it? It's when they had seances. What the hell is it called? Madame Blavatsky, Theosophical Society. She was one of the founders of Theosophical Society. And,
The Theosophical Society, yeah.
I cannot. Anyways, keep going. There was a movement around her.
Right. There was a movement around her.
Yeah.
And they called themselves Theosophical Society, and then later it turned into the White Brotherhood.
Yeah.
Right. In the White Brotherhood, they considered themselves as like teachers of the world.
Yeah.
Not
white race, but white light. Right.
Like white light.
Yeah.
Not white race.
Yeah.
We're not talking about race. And they considered themselves as teachers of the world, right?
Yeah.
And when you look deep into it, their qualifications are actually very shaky,
That whole movement was shaky.
The whole movement was shaky, right? And they started to sort of like bring in a lot of religious leaders into that, or religious leaders were part of that movement. Like, Jiddu Krishnamurti?
Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare, Krishna Hare.
Right.
Yeah, I know.
So Jiddu Krishnamurti was part of the Theosophical Society, or part of the White Brotherhood.
Well,
He did say that he stopped. He's not part of them anymore.
we're talking about two different ones then.
Yeah, I think Jiddu Krishnamurti is more like
Contemporary.
More contemporary, yeah.
Yeah. The original Hare Krishna but he's a part of that movement, which they called the cult, and kind of dismantled by denigration, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
So no, he's not that old, right?
Yeah.
I think he was around in the, again, I'm not quite sure, but I think it was the 80s.
The Hare Krishna movement. Yes.
And it was sorry, there's a lot of background noise right now. And he basically became like a Hindu religious leader, right? But he wasn't part of that society anymore. That's what he said. But he still followed their doctrine.
Yeah.
And the problem with that doctrine is that it's very liberal.
Yeah, didn't it come from the Mahabharata? What is it? The texts, the Bhagavad Gita,
Yeah,
the Mahabharata.
right,
Well, the
right.
Mahabharata is the overwhelming. Was the Gadic? What fucking text? You know what I'm talking about, anyway.
Right. And yeah.
Vedic text. The Vedic text.
Right, the Vedic text.
Yeah.
And the Bhagavad Gita itself, it's very volatile actually. I've read I've read a little bit of it. It's very volatile. But the way they do the way they interpret the text, it's in this liberal sense of trying to dilute its violence down, and it's more like a happy, we're all equal or the same, kumbaya religion.
Yeah, if you've ever been to San Francisco, they're on every corner, or they used to be.
Right. I mean, nowadays they moved to the internet. You know?
I know. I still got some Hare Krishna beads around here somewhere. I'll tell you.
Oh wow!
They gave them to me. They give them away at Fisherman's Wharf. But anyways, keep going.
I mean, yeah. So that's tragic, but
I mean, that's what they do. They give you the book, they give you the beads, and they teach you the chant.
Yeah. So okay, let's talk about that. Right. The way they teach you those chants.
Yeah.
So these chants are real, right?
Oh yeah, they absolutely are. Yeah.
They're real and they have a real effect. But the problem is that the way they teach you those chants is again in this very happy kumbaya mode. But that's not the point of those chants. The point is that you put yourself in this meditative stance. Yeah. In the meditative states, it's like a near-death state where you get access to the divine.
Yeah. Or DMT or mushrooms. Now's all they do. They don't chant anymore.
They don't chant anymore. They just do drugs, and it's just an excuse to basically call yourself a spiritual. Nowadays, everybody can be a spiritual leader.
Oh, absolutely.
Everybody can call themselves a spiritual leader. They don't need to read any books anymore. They can just say that, oh, yeah, I've had an enlightening experience.
Yeah.
You know?
But then say the right things.
You say the right things, and you don't even have to try hard.
Yeah.
You know? And so they're basically calling themselves spiritual leaders. But the way they teach that spirituality is completely wrong. It's just wrong. Yeah. Because they try to take the spiritual world is very violent.
Yes, it is.
You're dealing with angels, you're dealing with demons, you're dealing with spirits, whatever you want to call them.
Nuclear wars.
But they're
talking about the Vedics.
Right. They're entities. They're entities who exist in the macrocosm. So their movements are big. Their movements are big and violent.
Yeah. And
those entities, they're not our friends, you know. They're actually very hostile towards us because there's a certain jealousy that they have towards us, actually. I mean, and we can go into that, but we'll go into that in a bit. But I just want to finish my point here. So those spiritual leaders, they're fake, and they adopt a theosophical doctrine, you know, because what happens is, for the sake of profit, they're like, spiritually speaking, they're lower caste people who are trying to seek a quick profit.
Yeah, Scientologists, listen.
Right.
Anyways, keep going.
And they're exploiting that spiritual space, which is very real and which is very powerful, in order to make a quick buck. Yeah. You know, you also have the televangelists; they're also there.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And so they're everywhere. They're in every religious space. And to some degree, even some bigger religious spaces, you know, some Christian churches, there's some Jewish synagogues.
Oh yeah.
And there's also some mosques.
Across the board. It's across
everywhere.
The board. Yeah.
Everywhere. So they really successfully infiltrated that space. And their purpose is to dilute spirituality down
for financial gain.
Right? For financial gain.
Catholic Church, they all learned it from the Catholic Church.
Yeah. I didn't want to say it, but yeah.
I mean, it's true. It's absolutely true. You know,
Right.
Baha'i, I think, was the last guru that had anything close to right.
So that being said, right? How do you combat these people? Like, how do you come above them? Is you have to read your theory. You got to be on point with your theory. And so why do so many people get fooled? It's because, they're buying into that spectacle.
Yeah.
You're buying into that spectacle of like it's all light shows and it feels good and it's so nice,
Yeah.
But when you actually experience like spirituality, it's a very scary thing.
It's personal too.
It's very personal too.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that you can't make financial gain out of it, because money is also magic,
Well, yeah.
but if that's your sole purpose, you got it wrong, basically. You got it wrong. And so they teach those real methods, but they're not experts. And because they're not experts and they're just looking out for a quick buck, they're putting these people in danger because they're teaching them real rituals.
A lot. Yeah, I know. And a lot of the guru, what do you call them? Apostles that are out there got it from handbooks. This is how you teach the public, and this is how you get their money. And it says it in the handbooks, get their money. So yeah, I'm with you. Keep going.
Right. So when, so a lot of time, these new age groups, they sort of like, they consider themselves as like spiritually, and then they do those rituals and they jeopardize themselves and the people around them, because then they're messing with forces they don't really understand. And
100% right.
So when you're, you have to understand, like, these beings that you deal with, they're not friendly. They're not friendly at all, because for us, we have like so okay, let me give you some context why.
A good example would be the Islam, the jinn. And it's almost every entity is jinn in the Muslim faith. You know what I'm saying? Outside of their Allah and their prophet, they're mostly, if you're a spiritual being, you're a jinn. They call them a malevolent. I don't want to say demons, but malevolent beings, or even fairies, dwarves, all that stuff. Throughout history until recently. And I believe you 100%. They're very real.
Right. They're very real, and they're very hostile too.
Yes.
So there's so the reason for that is actually very simple, right? There's in total like 5 elements, right? You have water, fire, earth, air, and spirit, Yeah. And so we as human beings, we possess all 5.
Yeah.
Right? We possess all 5. So we're like independent beings, right?
Yeah.
Who can either, who basically can meddle with the non-spatial realm and translate it into the spatial world, right?
Yeah.
So an example would be labor, right? If you perform labor, you have like an idea in your head, and then you're translating it into the physical world. So it's something like writing, or even like creating a box, right? Or building a house. You had to imagine it in your head first. So some non-spatial movement there.
Bring it into reality.
Right, and you bring it into the physical world, right? Because you have a body to do so.
Yeah.
Now, these beings, they don't, but they do have the desire to bring their ideas into the physical world as well.
Yeah.
Right. And so what they try to do is they try to take over your body in order to be able to do so. Right. The problem is that when you have too much of an element, right? Yeah. So, they're made mainly of fire and air. So they're very intellectual, and they're also divine. even the demons, and demons are divine. They're just on the opposite side, right?
Yeah.
When they try to take over your body, there's an excess of elements there, and your body starts decaying because it's messing up with the code. You know,
the cheat.
They cheat, right? And so they have to manifest themselves. They have a constant need for blood, you know, because they can only hold a body for so long before it deteriorates, right?
Yeah.
Now, with that in mind, like if you're teaching like some random trust fund kid how to summon like a Saturnian spirit by just doing a chant, like he's not gonna adequately protect himself against it.
Yeah.
It's gonna destroy his soul.
That's where the pagan religion, like the pagan ideology, really is so balanced, you know. Anyways, keep going. I'm sorry, I'll get into that later, but go ahead.
Right. I mean, you know, we can, but so what happens is you summon those spirits and they cause a lot of damage.
Yes,
right.
Because you don't balance it. There's no balance.
You don't know how to, because to summon a spirit, like let's say you were to summon a demon, in order to have it do your bidding, you have to torture it. You have to torture it and you have to force it.
Yeah.
You know, and that, you know, that's very dangerous.
How would you even do that?
There's different ways.
Well, you don't have to tell me, but
I can tell you.
Well, I mean, you can, but it's just when you said it, you have to do it, damage or torture it. I can't even imagine, like, I've always thought about this as having a balancing act.
No, it's very violent. It's very violent. In order, like, you know, that's how Solomonic magic works as well. You know, like King Solomon, the way he controlled his angels and demons that he summoned was he tortured them, right? Yeah. He got them drunk, which how? But he got them drunk and then he tortured them.
And this is Kabbalah. This isn't the Bible, guys, right?
This is Kabbalah right there. It's just so you guys know, like this is.
You're not gonna find it in the Bible.
You won't.
Keep going.
Gotta dig deeper, a little deeper. But so
these religions doing this shit on the street is dangerous, basically.
It's dangerous because they don't know how to do it correctly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. They don't know how to do it correctly.
Handbook preachers.
Handbook preachers, right?
Yeah. And
so I fought those people.
Yeah.
You know, I fought those people while I was a preacher myself. You know, did I know as much as I do now? I mean, no, but I still knew that whatever they're teaching is not good for your average Joe. You know.
Yeah.
Someone like that, he should know how to, you know, be loyal to his wife, do good deeds, you know. He should know.
Osteen.
Right. Yeah. Right. He should know how to summon like Asmodeus to fucking find you treasures, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I'm just throwing those names out there to talk shit. So just keep going though.
Right.
Ignore it. I'm just talking shit.
No, feel free.
Yeah.
So these people, they're completely teaching everything wrong. And so I fought them. I fought all of them. And the problem is that people, they're yearning for spirituality. They're yearning for more. They're yearning for more esotericism, actually.
I'm one of them.
Right. Because there's been like just centuries or decades of censorship, decades of convincing people that this stuff is evil and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, it's dangerous, but it's not necessarily evil.
Yeah.
You know,
the censorship, that's why I think people are starting to learn about this stuff, and censorship now is really anti-individual more than anti-political, anti-anything. It's more anti-spiritual growth, you know. If you think about it, just put it into perspective a little bit.
Right. So why is that the case? It's because it's like giving birth, right? When you reach the end of a time era, you know, the sort of like emotions, the emotions that come with it are stronger, right? And so right now people are yearning because we are in the age of Pisces. So what is Pisces? Pisces is a very spiritual sign, but it's also very passive.
Yeah.
And what happens is that people are yearning for that spirituality, but they don't have to drive to get it. And there's just so many systems that were, again, put up by the Catholic Church mainly, but also by other every religious group has their censorship, even the Jews, you know.
Most of the modern ones, besides the Jews and the Zoroastrians, pretty much
I mean,
spun out, you know.
I'd say even the Jews, actually, because there
They
is,
took it on.
there's a guy called Maimonides, and
Greek,
he's like the Jewish Aristotle, right? And he brought a lot of exotericism into Judaism.
Wasn't he a convert? He converted to it, didn't he?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
Let's keep going. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just
But-
get into this. I'm such a nerd, dude. When you're talking about this shit, like I know all the shit.
No, I appreciate it.
I'm like, hell yeah, let's get into this. But
I appreciate that. You know, that's
trying to let you have the, you know, give you some shine here too.
So Maimonides basically brought a lot of exotericism into Judaism.
Yeah.
And gate kept the esoteric stuff, right? But the problem with gatekeeping is that yes, fine, you can gatekeep some knowledge from the public because the public isn't always ready for.
We used to have mystery schools. Sorry, keep going.
Right. And why is that the case? Well, because some of the people, they're not ready for like these secrets. And so they have to hear that standard, just be a good guy speech, right?
Yeah.
But then there is people like you, like me, like some other people that I know who clearly can handle it, and they're trying to know more. But then there's this guy who just kind of like gatekeeps you from it.
Yeah.
You know, and you're like, okay, like I know you're gatekeeping me.
Yeah.
Like don't pretend like you're not. I know you're gatekeeping me, and it doesn't work. And I have a right to know these things.
That's why I joined the mystery schools personally. You got to seek them out though. But keep going. Sorry.
Right. Even the Jews are being gatekept. You know, and the Jews are being gatekept from a lot of their Kabbalistic knowledge. You know?
Yeah.
And the Jews, the Christians, the Muslims, they're all being gatekept.
Yeah.
And again, like the problem with gatekeeping is that it becomes incestuous. You know what I mean? So now you're not selecting people who have like the spiritual maturity to learn esotericism.
Yeah.
Right. But you're just choosing people who are of your own circle.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then you get like a goofball who then allows for
like the current Pope.
Right.
I didn't say that out loud, did I? They're gonna strike me down.
Again, like gotta be careful with that one. Like the Catholics are gonna start storming. We're like, well, that's not really true. Like the Pope is like the ultimate authority. So what he says is true, you know?
Yeah, no, I know you're 100%, but it's true, dude. It's just everything you're saying is on point. Keep going. I'm listening.
Right.
I'm learning now. Let's go. Well, and just keep on going. If I just cut in with like a word, just keep on going. Acknowledge it if I'm right. Laugh if I'm wrong, but keep going.
Yeah. Okay. So that gatekeeping, what makes it so incestuous, that's also from that that comes from the theosophical society doctrine, you know, because then it's only a certain group who is allowed to have that, you know. And most of today's spiritual leaders, they're not qualified, right? They're not qualified to be in that position. And that's very characteristic of the age of Pisces, because again, spirituality is big, but it's passive, which means that real spiritual leaders and real, like, who were born with that capability, you know, are not in those positions. Because the point isn't to move spiritually forward, but it's to have a bunch of spiritual people who just sit passively and never get to fulfill their
obligations,
potential.
or even if you're a spiritual leader, you are obligated to lead, and they fulfill their financial potential, but their spiritual potential is different, and most of them aren't spiritual leaders. You're right.
And so that's why a lot of people say, oh, it feels like we're in the end times. Let's go back to that, right? It feels like we're in the end times. But the reason why it feels that way is not because the spiritual leaders are going rogue.
Yeah.
We haven't reached that yet. But it's that they're just passively sitting.
Yeah.
You
know? It seems like, even, you know about the Baha'i faith, right?
Yeah.
A little bit. They get put down quick. I mean, Baha'i is probably the smallest major religion on the planet, and you should look into it if you don't know too much about it. It's kind of cool. But nowadays, the people who have the ability to lead spiritually, not only by word but by example, and I'm not going to give any examples because I don't have any, but it seems like if somebody was to attempt that and was sincere in the modern era, they would be destroyed. Completely destroyed.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Especially if you consider like the punishments of the ancient days.
Oh yeah.
For misleading, for misleading, it's very hefty. You know.
Crucifixion. St. Peter got crucified upside down.
Right.
I mean, like, one of the apostles of Jesus, if you're a Christian, only one of them survived. Actually, no, none of them did. They all died. John of Patmos was after. So it's two different Johns. But
yeah, it's two different. The original John died.
Yeah, they all got killed in horrible ways.
Yeah. The John of Patmos was
after,
later,
like 300 BC is somewhere like in there, like 200 300 BC, a couple hundred years after Christ. So but people, I always lump them in because other people do, and it's like one of those things where, oh yeah, I remember that he was afterward. Anyways, I'm taking it off. Keep going.
No, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Like, just if you want to add to it, that's totally good. I think that keeps the conversation going, right?
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. This is good shit, dude. This is interesting stuff. And I'm gonna tell you something. Everybody wants to hear this stuff, right? Especially right now, because the world is lost, bro. You know, and the world needs direction, you know. Right. Individually though. Not as a conglomerate, you know what I mean? Like, not is the whole, but as individuals, we need somewhere to start too, you know?
Right. So again, like, a lot of people are disenfranchised from their spirituality because they just didn't have the correct leaders. You know? Now, I don't believe that you should completely leave out esotericism to the public, but it should be mixed in with exotericism.
Right? Esoteric arts are that fuck you of religion and Freemasonry and fraternal orders. And I mean, outside of maybe the Rosicrucians and some other sects like that, it's the esoteric is what is missing to me.
Right. It is missing. It is missing.
Completely, like,
because there's this wrong belief that you need to gatekeep it from the public.
Yes, exactly.
But the thing is not necessarily, you know, it's good to know why a person should be a good person, and not
Yes.
just say to a person, "Oh, that's just because that's the way it is."
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
like that is not satisfactory
There's
at
gatekeeping
all.
because in the esoteric philosophy, there's abundance. There's no end to it. It's just different kinds of abundance.
Right. So again, like
You can't control people who live in abundance.
you can't control people who live in abundance, but the thing is about abundance is that to abundance there needs to be structure as well, right?
Well, yeah, that's where the structure comes in after. At once we're saying the exact same thing in a different way because you
Right.
should let both sides in and not gatekeep one. But
100%.
it has to come in equally, and that's where you get your structure and you get abundant structure and structurally abundant. You see what I'm saying?
Right. And so a lot of times what happens is people try to ignore the spiritual, that they try to ignore the material world and just solely focus on the spiritual stuff, and vice versa. The same thing happens too, you know.
Hold once.
I think I'm losing you here. Hold on.
If you can hear me, oh, there you go.
Okay.
Go.
So a lot of people they want to focus on either or, right?
Yeah.
So they either like fully materialists or they're fully spiritual. Oh, the material world doesn't affect me and my soul at all, which is completely wrong. You need both because the spiritual affects the material world, and whatever happens in the material world will affect the spiritual world as well. Because again, there's a macrocosm and there's a microcosm, and the macrocosm is where all the spiritual movement happens, but that translates into the microcosm.
Have you ever
there is a
pebble
ritual
in a pond? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
there is a ritual. It's a real ritual. It's an ancient Babylonian ritual to make your horse run faster during a horse race.
Yeah.
Right? So let's say you bet some money. Let's say you're like in ancient Babylonia or ancient Egypt, and you bet on a horse. You will do a certain ritual to make it run faster. And the angels of the encampments that you call upon to make the horse faster are pulling the stars in the sky.
Yeah.
Right. So here you can see how on the macrocosm these angels, their job is to pull the stars, but you can copy their abilities into the physical world by making your horse run faster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have I've always kind of I kind of know you explain it a little bit better than me because when I try to dumb it down as best I can because the articulation of it is difficult for me, but it's the stone in the pond, the pebble in the pond, right? You put it out, and what you put out comes back, and there's different ways to put it out, but the ripple always comes back to your feet, in one way or another. You see, like, I guess I don't know if I'm saying it right, but it's the same as like the ritual. It can come back good or it can come bad, but it always comes back.
It always comes back. And it depends on kind of like what your reputation is in the macrocosm. That's a real thing too.
If you want wholesomeness to come back, you kind of you can't half we're all half stepping basically right now.
Well, yeah, if you want wholesomeness to come back, you just have to be a very giving person. A lot of spirituality is connected to farming. Actually, a lot of spirituality farming. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And one of the beliefs is that if you're like the sun, right? If you're giving like the sun, you gain favor in the spiritual world, because you're copying the divine, right? You're becoming a source of light into the world. you know. But it's right. So that would be an exoteric explanation. But the esoteric explanation would be, to be like the sun, you need to fulfill certain steps because your body is of the earth. And because your body is of the earth, it's very corrupt. And so when you draw down solar energy into your body, it gets corrupted.
Yeah.
And then instead of being a very giving person, you become very narcissistic, egoistic, you know. You become very like self-absorbed, because the sun has those dark aspects too, because it covers all the planets.
Yeah.
Right. And so again, if I was like a Rameshwami spiritual leader, you know, I wouldn't be able to give that explanation. And then people would try to be like the sun and they pull that solar energy. But then what you have is a bunch of trust fund snobs.
Yeah.
Who,
and you get back what you threw in.
Right.
And
so when you're a corrupt person, which all of us are, because we have that, because Earth, the element Earth is just a very corrupt element. And when we didn't overcome our corruption and we try to draw in from these other elements, it becomes just very, it comes out in a very corrupt way.
Yes.
You know? And so there's a certain cleansing process that needs to happen before you get to, you know, even draw from the macrocosm, you know, from the spiritual
I'm
world.
with you. I might I might have someone hop in and introduce you here in just a second. Let me send this real quick. But you guys are gonna get along great if you have some time.
I mean, I have some time.
All right, good. He might jump in because he's into a lot of this. He's more Christian than anything, but he's my favorite. I have him on all the time. I always have him jump in down the way. But I always, you know, like, speaking of gatekeepers, I'm kind of a gatekeeper, you know. So I'm the farm team, dude. You get through these ones, we get through these ones, and even if we, you know, sometimes we're bouncing all around, but you know, you'll get some attention, which is cool. But this, he's a good buddy of mine. If he jumps on, I'll let you know. I just sent the link. We'll see what he says, but keep going. Let's go. Right. Let's go back. Let's rewind here for a little bit because we kind of came off of the book topic. What would you call the introduction? Summarize your book. Let's introduce it, like full on. Put it on the screen. Introduce the book. Make it so everybody could see it because it's hard. Come on, you got to get up in there a little closer. Pillars of Wisdom, up. There it is, Pillars of Wisdom. This is the book. This is the conversation we're having. I know we're bouncing around a lot, so we're going to get to it so you guys can fully understand. You know, sorry for the bouncing around, but there's so many interesting things here. It's going to take 2 years to go over, but
right.
So let's summarize the book.
So the book is basically a psychoanalytic book that has economic elements and Neoplatonism in it, right?
Yeah.
So basically, what you're reading is 2 books because you're reading the text in the book, which is very interesting. But you're also if you look at here, you know, there's these astrological aspects that have sort of like a meaning, right? And there's the pictures as well, if you can see it. And so when you have a more, it's just to incentivize people to get more into that, right? Because it gives you like a good understanding of the images in the book, right? Because they have a meaning too. But yeah, this book is mainly just psychoanalysis, economics, and Neoplatonism, and it combines those elements together into one, right? And the main message of this book is that it's there to basically convince people to expat, right? To like people who are like a little bit lost in their lives, you know. It's supposed to give them a direction,
help them grow. So it's not so. Is it convincing or is it a guidebook to a better future? Because trying to convince people seems kind of, you know, Democrat Republicanish. But if you know,
let's just say that it's a good introduction.
Introduction.
It's a good introduction. It's a good, like, it tells you the first steps, basically.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of people don't know where to look, and this book sort of like tells them where all the steps are. Right.
Gives them a guide on some of their next moves.
Right.
Maybe.
So like there's a lot of spiritual stuff in this book, right?
Yeah.
There's dating guides as well.
Uh,
And there's also like practical stuff like how to get a remote job, how to lie on your resume.
So it sounds like a good guidebook for somebody who wants to experience the world like we're supposed to, is what it sounds
Right.
like kind of to me.
Right.
Do me a favor real quick before we go on. My kid brother is here. I'm going to pause this real quick. Anyway, so we got a little off track there. Sorry about that.
That's okay. No,
He's
that's
a knucklehead kid, but anyway, so yeah, let's get back to it. So we left off summarizing it. So what are some of the best points if someone's going to open the book, right? Let's bullet point down. We don't have to read chapter by chapter, but let's go through, say somebody wants to do what you're doing, right? And they want to get out there and explore themselves as individuals, spiritually, financially. They want to make a change in their life. They want to boost themselves into a better position for themselves and their family. Let's open it up hypothetically, right? Not figuratively, but let's open it up to chapter 1 or wherever. Where would they start? What would you summarize the best place to start looking?
So I'd say the best start to look, ironically, is the introduction.
The intro.
It's to start there because it gives a lot of context. And if you want, I can read a little bit of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead. Yeah.
So let's see. So we're talking about where is the intro? Hold on. Okay, here we go. So over the past quarter century, the middle class and its way of life have been obliterated through a combination of NAFTA, inflation, and student loans. The billionaire class did an excellent job isolating, segregating, and externalizing costs onto the middle class while maximizing profit. Initially, this was done in a subtle way and therefore required careful explanation to expose. After the masking, lockdowns, and blood clot doom-juice terror campaign, the deliberate liquidation of the Western middle class can no longer be waved away as a conspiracy theory. There are two ways a man can hang himself: from his neck and from his penis. The boomers, in their ingenuity, decided to do both simultaneously while desperately demanding we watch.
Yeah.
So
that kind of gives an idea of what most people feel.
Right. What most
that was
people
actually a really good paragraph of how most people actually legitimately feel.
Right. So when you read this book, it used, especially after the lockdowns, especially after the pandemic, you really feel like someone is speaking to you who understands you.
Yeah.
Right. And at the same time gives you all the solutions that you need in order to move forward after those structures, after those systems.
Yeah.
And so, when again, there's a lot of practical advice in the book, but as a whole, like it just gives you just the necessary enlightenment spiritually, financially, and philosophically to sort of like tell you like, okay, like all of this happened and it's not completely your fault, but here's how you can navigate this system in order to get the most out of it.
So the next thing, what people are going to get a lot of it. So everybody's going to obviously get something different. Have the people around you who have practiced what you're teaching in Pillars of Wisdom, that you know firsthand how have their lives changed, and how do you believe that they have benefited outside of yourself?
So I had many clients whom I taught, and some of them did fail out, but the ones that managed to implement my process
Yeah.
are now living better lives. So one of them was someone who lived in Texas, and he didn't completely move, but he's planning to
Yeah.
next year. And he has a kid now. He's married, and he is overall like investing into this country to later retire here, or to retire early here,
Yeah.
right? I had a Mexican client actually, who was sort of like lost. He didn't know what to do, and I gave him the right information, the right structure to now live a middle class life in Mexico.
Yeah.
And I've also had a client who was a virgin at 23.
Yeah.
So he lost his virginity
Congratulations.
because of me.
And
And
that influence ass, man.
yeah, and now he's getting a remote job, and he's planning to move. There's another guy who actually lived nearby me, actually. And he is now planning to travel through Asia, travel through Latin America, and sort of like explore the world, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times what my clients had was sort of like that anxiety to take the next step.
Yeah. I'm one of them, so I'm about to be one, but go ahead.
Well, if you read this book, if you read this book, you're gonna see that a lot of that anxiety, you're gonna see like the methods to overcome that anxiety. And a lot of that anxiety is despite you feeling it, you just have to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I got one thing. I have a little girl. She's actually a grown up now. She's 18. I'm about to be 19 in a couple days. And
oh wow.
I refuse to be where I can't, if she needs me, I can't get to her, and that's one of the things. And the remote job thing is something I'm really looking forward to actually exploring myself, even though, I'm not super tech savvy, but
there's different remote jobs.
Yeah.
There's different remote jobs. Like there's not just tech remote jobs, but also sales remote jobs are actually very, very looked out for. And sales has like a low learning curve. Like you don't really need a sales degree to do sales, right?
I was a superstar salesman at one point.
Right. So, if you know how to do sales, it's a good gateway to get into a remote job. And then later you can branch off of into more managerial positions, which are also completely remote, right? Yeah. And so if you're not tech savvy, like if you don't know programming, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, those programmers, those tech companies, they have the product, but you always need to sell your product. Otherwise, it's just sitting there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. What about? Go ahead.
And so there's different ways. Like there's sales, there's marketing, there's advertisement.
Now, if you think back to some people who you've talked to that have maybe not had success, there's got to be a common denominator. What would you call that?
A lot of times why people didn't succeed, surprising, is because they've repressed a lot of their emotions.
Like,
and
give an example. Elaborate.
So I guess I'm going to be fully honest. There was a guy, I had a client who, how do I say this? Who had a lot of resentment towards his father.
Yeah.
And towards his mother too.
Yeah.
And the way he would his problems were always that he felt like the world was against him.
Yeah.
And when I would explain to him, when I would try to point out to him that it's not so much that the world is against him, but that he is actually against the world.
Yeah.
Because he is the one who
Accountability.
keeps,
Yeah.
he is the one who keeps, exactly, he is the one who keeps projecting onto the people around him,
Yeah.
his parents' relationships to him. He would not listen. He would purposefully make himself forget.
Yeah. Yeah.
He'd make himself forget.
He-
And
Go ahead.
there was one time we didn't really get into a fight, but I did point out, I spoke to him directly. You know, after a year of talking to him, I spoke to him directly, and I said to him, like, because one of the things he said to me is, "Oh, you're just using me for my money,"
Ah,
you know. And one of the things I said to him is, "That's actually not true, because you're the one who keeps bringing it up, and
Yeah.
you're the one who's whenever I withhold information from you for your own sake, for your own growth,
yeah.
you know." Because one of the things he would do is he would like information gather, but then not do anything with it, so as to not deal with his emotions, right? So he would try to talk about a topic and collect facts and hide behind those facts, right? Hide his own problems behind those facts. So when I try to address his problem, instead of giving him a bunch of facts, he would say, "Well, I'm paying you to give me those facts," you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I told him that because that's him using other people for money, actually.
It sounds like a lack of personal accountability.
100%. But
So
that
you-
lack of personal accountability comes from a lack of it's an unhealthy relationship with his parents.
Yeah. You think that's something that's super overcomable. So you think it sounds to me like the one thing that's holding most people back from fulfilling this dream, if that's their dream, is that they're unwilling to hold themselves accountable or to a higher standard or let go of past ideology. Right.
They're unable to sort of like, they're unable to push forward.
Yeah.
And because pushing forward takes a lot of emotional strength.
Yes,
you
it
know?
does. Yeah.
And they've repressed so much in their life that
Yeah.
they're putting all of their energy into pushing down their emotions so
Yeah.
they can feel comfortable. But my thing is, you always got to do the most uncomfortable thing.
Yeah.
Always got to do the most comfortable, most messed up thing, because then only then can you barely make it.
Yeah.
And you know, and the difference between
Go ahead.
the difference between my failed clients and my successful clients is my successful clients had that willpower. You know, like we said earlier, they had a dream that they wanted to fulfill, and instead of letting their emotions get in the way, they pushed forward.
So you're kind of taking the American dream worldwide, is what it sounds like. You know,
I guess so.
I mean,
if that's what it is, then yeah.
That's what the American dream is. You get out there, you be uncomfortable, you work hard, you fight through things, you fail, you succeed, you fail, then succeed again. You play, like I said, play big, win big, and I think I think what your message is actually fantastic on that note. So let me ask you this. If any human being on the planet, right, can suspend their disbelief and follow some of the pathways that you laid out, can you think anybody who could be successful at this?
Yeah, 100%.
And the keys basically suspend your disbelief, face your fears, and get out there and change the world.
Just
right?
push.
Yeah.
Push to the other side, right? And do the most messed up thing, and then push to the other side, right? because if you let your fears, excuses, if you let any of that get in the way of of going to where you need to go,
Yeah.
then you'll you fail. There's a saying that I learned is that you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take, right?
Absolutely. Yes, you do. Do you have if you balance your spirit, so the ultimate goal, it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, is to find is this is a spiritual pathway, right? A pathway to success, a pathway to balancing your spiritual self, um, uh, wisdom, obviously, gaining wisdom and some enlightenment and some motivation to make the necessary moves to improve your own life as an individual. It sounds like what you're preaching here, mostly.
Mostly, yeah. So again, and if that means that you got to leave your home country, your hometown, to a better place, then that's what you got to do.
Absolutely.
And then, so it doesn't matter how you feel about certain things, but it's sort of like what gets you to win.
What about the one client we all have that you're most proud of, that you just fucking, you weren't sure, you were unsure what, and they just outshone everything. And what's the difference between them and everybody else?
Again, like he was actually he actually listened to what I said, right? So one of the things that I told him, he was Mexican, right?
Yeah.
He was Mexican and who lived in Mexico. And one of the things that I said to him was like, listen, so there was one time he tried to cancel, and because he was like, well, I don't need the service anymore because, I got what I wanted. And I basically asked him, okay, but what are you going to do when you're 30 years old, when you're 40 years old? Like, what's your plan then? Like, are you always going to just think short term and then long term you'll figure it out, or what's there? It's like, well, I didn't think about it. It's like, yeah, but I did, because I just pointed it out to you. And so my plan for you is not just your short term gain, but I'm trying to make you win long term.
Yes, that's important as well. Yeah,
that really resonated with him.
Yeah.
And he really took it to heart, like I was just sort of like, I was just saying this because for me, that's just, a reasonable thing to say.
Yeah.
But for him, it really got to his heart and inspired him to keep pushing. And now he's finishing I think he's getting a degree in coding, and he's getting a remote job and starting to live a middle-class life. He has a girlfriend now, and one of the problems that he had was keeping a girlfriend. So now he has a girlfriend, and he's had her for, I think, a year now. He's getting a remote job. He's living a middle-class life now, and he, that was the difference between him and these other clients that I had, was that he didn't put up any mental blockages when I spoke to him.
Yeah.
But he actually took my advice to heart, and he let himself be inspired in that way.
Yeah. What about you? Have you it seems like you found your love and your living, and how's your success? How do you feel now that you're selling something that has more value than money? You're not doing this for selfish reasons, obviously.
No, for me, it's not about the money, right?
Yeah.
For me, it's not about the money. I'm just taking the money to feed myself, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Right. I'm just taking the money to feed myself, and then later be able to retire myself.
Yeah.
But for me, it's a weird feeling of like fulfillment that I see when other people are doing well.
Yeah.
Especially when I help them, but not because I'm like, oh, it's because I helped you, that's where you are, and so I'm like the best guy, blah blah blah. But it's just that I love to see people who have potential and they get to fulfill their potential.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
I'm kind of empathic that way. You know, it's more, you know, like where you look out, you know, you feel like your duty is to help other people in your life. Yeah. I'm the same.
Right. And so for me, it's like, well, I already live a pretty good life here in Mexico. You know, I'm not saying I'm living the best life, but I live a pretty good life, better than before. And I'm trying to, you know, I was able to get to my potential right now. I was trying to push my limits, obviously, but in terms of like potential, I got there by coming here, and now I've become a writer, you know, and I'm helping other people. And so I'm trying to get other people to get there as well, you know, to sort of like get to a position where they're fulfilled and they're doing better.
Well, you killed it tonight and fulfilled another one too. So you got El Jefe over there ready to have you on the show. So we're pushing on 2 hours. We got 5 minutes left. Let's do this last thing here. Where can people find you?
So there is a Substack that I have. I think I shared the link with you. It's a link tree.
You keep going.
And so there's different authors. It's the same way in the book. So the main author of the book is writing on there. I sometimes write on there too. If you search Pillars of Wisdom on Substack, you can find me there. And if you go on pillarsofwisdom.com, that's where you can buy the book. Again, I think there's a link tree there that I can have my tech guy send it again if you didn't get it.
No, but I got it. I already sent that one out. The Pillars.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So pillarsofwisdom.com, and then I have a Substack. And
send that link because we're going to put it all in the description, people. It'll be all in the description for you to link onto.
Yeah, I'll have my tech guy. I'll have my tech guy send everything, and and just buy the book. You know, really just buy the book. And once you bought the book, I always reach out to the people. I call them, ask them how they find it, and you know, it's
that's a rare thing too.
I just, you know, for me, I just really like talking to my audience. I'm like a hands-on person, you know.
We're about to build that audience, young man. So
that'd be great. Yeah.
We have we've had a great show. I want to talk to you after the show. Well, you know, and I hope we can do this more. I got a couple ideas I'm going to throw your way here in just a second. In the meantime, Art of Revolution, Vito, Pillars of Wisdom, signing out. Hang tight, brother.
All right.
We got to push this. There we go.
Take 3. Hey, what's up, G?
Zach G mixed it.
Hey, it's the Art of Revolution.
Push the masses away from the media. Every day it's a new distraction from what matters to me. And you'll get the public together to speak in front of theater with a microphone dangling. Congress tied up in they hearing us like, hey y'all, I'm holding this microphone like a K-Dog. And with this y'all, I kick the revolution way off. Today's the day, dog. They ain't like us, I'm quoting K-Dog. I'm from the days of face-to-face conversations like, hey, wait up. The fake is blatant, we ain't the racist. The claim is baseless, they taking face pics. To trade for information, take away your simple basics. The day-to-day Satan worship is taking place. It's your chance to speak your mind and probably your last time. Time is running out, we hustle every day for peace of mind. Cheap and grind, that's what I'm saying when I'm out here getting mine. Get in line, the time to make a difference is not. Push, pull, push, pull. Push out the evil and pull in the truth. I know you got something time to say it, dude. Like push, pull, push, pull. Push out the evil and pull in the truth. I know you got something to say, and now's your time to say it, dude. Like pull it together, get your notes and take a step up. The road to freedom always begins with a single letter. Are we ever gonna take a chance to get a leg up? The time to use your voice has arisen like it's the 7th. The first step is to let the people know you're fed up. The sword is quite mighty, but the pen will stick the neck better. Don't ever settle and constantly question your surroundings. Shit is always going down around you that you can't see. Thomas Sue and the art of revolution. It's time to spark a conversation and shock the institution. Fuck the system like Kama Sutra propaganda and mass confusion to take away your sight and then leave you blind to honest truth. Give me 2 fingers up, but fuck peace, I'ma see a thumb. Middle one raised up higher than your middle son. Little ones paying the price of silence is within us, giving us no time to react like Chernobyl incidents. Ha. Push, pull, push, pull. Push out the evil and pull in the truth. I know you got something to say, and now's your time to say it, dude. Like push, pull, push, pull. Push out the evil and pull in the truth. I know you got something to say, and now's your time to say it, dude. Like
Yes, sir.